A Gathering of Days, A New England Girl's Journal, 1830 to 1832. A novel by Joan W. Bloss. Chapter 4. Sabbath Day, December 12th, 1830. I could not speak with C today, her mother keeping close by her side at morning service and after. I am so mindful of the stranger. Everything reminds me of him. The cold we felt on going out, the grateful warmth of home. Yet sadly, I am in no way nearer to knowing what is right in this instance and what I ought to do. Please, miss, I am cold. Sinned against or dangerous sinner? I do so long to speak of it, yet who can give me a counsel? I am cold. Take pity. I wish he had never come to our place, disturbing the quiet of our woods, enforcing his words in my book. Monday, December 13th, 1830. Some of the shipmen's pies are stolen. That had been put in the buttery after Thanksgiving meal. They were meant to freeze and keep, and would have been good till March. Asa, whose sweet tooth is well known, was thrashed for the offense. Cassie, who does not know of the phantom, observes that A protested but little, and that this is a confirmation he was indeed the culprit. As I am quite certain 'tis the phantom's work, again are wrong and right confused, and by what plausible signs? Asa's brother David noted that the footprints in the snow matched not Asa's boots. But there was Asa, accepting guilt. This to protect the phantom, I'm sure, and Asa's father brushing him off, saying that yesterday's snowfall was fine, and, what with the wind and drifting over, no print would hold its shape. Besides, he said, like charity, stealing begins at home. Tuesday, December 14th, 1830. In this day, under skies so blue they seemed entirely to mock me, I have despaired, have been enlightened, and, what ought have been the height of my joy, been again cast down. I have so sorely offended Cassie, she will not speak to me. I cannot remember that this has happened before. Before a chance was provided to me, Asa spoke with Cassie about what we had seen in the woods. I knew when I crossed the schoolhouse sill how terribly disapproved she was. The eyes that found me were dark and troubled, and scarce consented to mine. My mind, as I took my seat, was distressed, and not with the lessons ahead. To disregard both father and Cassie? I thought I could not do it. But how could I refuse the pleas of Asa and the stranger, the first of these so fully persuaded, the other so much in need? Teacher Holt took his usual place, setting out precepts for the youngest to read in words of one syllable. Give to them that want, he wrote. The text seeming chosen to address my dilemma, how my heart leapt up. I spoke at Cassie in the row ahead, and she, though slightly, nodded. Several other precepts appeared below the wondrous first. Then, speak the truth, and lie not. Cassie turned to me at this, sorrowful and rebuking. Forgetting myself, I exclaimed aloud, but no lie is asked. Thus was our teacher's attention drawn, and I, composing my face the faster, Cassie was chastised. Think you, Miss Shipman, said Teacher Holt, making the title a taunt, think you, Miss Shipman, that you or I, or indeed any of us, outgrow these simple schoolroom teachings? No, 'tis their very simplicity that makes them last, and last, and last. And therefore will I have you write 100 times that you may remember, teach me to do thy will. Cassie, the purest in spirit of all to be so cruelly shamed. Slowly, how slowly the day wore on. I could not risk a sign or gesture, and this was truer punishment than any a teacher might have devised to fit the circumstances. For Cassie, it now seemed to me, had been in the right. The very concealment were a lie, and Cassie, because obedient and good, had known at once what I and Asa were so slow to see. Going home, I walked abreast of her, carefully matching my step to hers, hoping she might send me a glance that I might return with a smile. But she, so gentle, was adamant, and turned at her gate without speaking. "Cassie, Cassie, will you hear your friend? Cassie, will you forgive me? Oh, in the morning will all be told, and will you then accept me back, who am so undeserving?" Thursday, December 16th, 1830. Cassie said, "Forgive me, Catherine." "No, 'tis I begged. At length, amidst what stinging tears we each of us heard the other out. For even as I had taken her view, so surely had she, and sleepless hours, come to accord with mine. Such turnabout evoked wan smiles, and when at last we spoke again, Cassie said so quietly it was nearly a whisper, "Kindness must be the highest virtue. Don't let me ever forget that. Were I to strive for one thing only, 'twould be to be kind to others, as you are, Catherine." Friday, December 17th, 1830. Cassie and I this afternoon selected one of my mother's quilts, one with plenty of warmth in it, yet though some parts worn and faded. This would be our answer to the fugitive's appeal. Could he have known when he wrote in my book that I, though a child, had been installed in my mother's place? If so, were he a local man? Did Providence guide his hand? Folding the quilt as small as we might, and wrapping some sausage and apples within, we crossed behind the shipman's house, reached the road, and thence proceeded to the Phantom's Stone. Asa dubbed it thus one day, and the name has taken. As part of our plan, I carried along the fateful lesson book. Should we be seen or questioned by neighbors, I was well rehearsed to say that I was in search of a certain tree which I intended sketching. Cassie had come to companion me, and she carried a worn-out quilt should we become too cold. A pat excuse, we all believed, to fit the situation. A second purpose might be served by taking the book in hand. Should we meet the stranger himself, he'd know our purpose instantly. Thus would not likely harm us. The woods, as ever, were still and cold. The only sound the clacking of branches as, frozen, they touched one another. Sketchbook or no, we did not tarry, and though we saw no human sign, sped about our errand. I turned but once as we left the spot where A had discovered the fugitive's prints, and which he'd occasioned to show to me, along with the fire's remains. Of this I shall remember forever the look of that cold and wintry clearing, the quilt tucked in the foot of a tree, and folded carefully to display a patch of brightest scarlet. I meant it, also, as a greeting, a flash of color, a bit of warmth, the only thing man made or brought to that desolation. Asa was at the gate. "Did you do it?" he asked, low-voiced. "Yes," we said, and all of a sudden, hot tears overflowed. Again, I saw that patch of scarlet and remembered my mother's voice as she told her stories. "That gray," she'd said, "was a waistcoat once. The drab's my father's trousers. 'Tis said the pieces of scarlet are old, cut from the back of a Haytian's coat left behind in battle." There, Kath," said Asa at last. Then he shifted from foot to foot, reached out for the edge of my cloak, and with it wiped my cheek. Saturday, December 18th, 1830. The bread today was overbaked. The beans were barely softened. "Who loves you now?" teased Father. If he but knew the real, true cause of my present distraction. Monday, December 20th, 1830. No more can I take my mind from the phantom than dare to re-enter the woods. Yesterday, when a tree burst open, the cold and frost being very severe, the explosive sound set my heart to pounding. So certain was I the report was a rifle's, and my phantom discovered.